Hi everyone, it's Gavin. The best thing since the colour green. And you're listening to the Therapy Suite right here on UK Health Radio, the world's number one talk health radio. This week I speak to Amelia, the flower farmer, about flowers. Welcome to the show, Amelia. How are you doing?
Hi Gavin, thanks for having me. I'm great, thank you.
Thanks for coming on the show. I know you've been busy. Had a busy Easter weekend. How was that?
It's been mad. The start of our season is always everything kicks off at once. So flowers blooming, seeds to sow, flowers to send in the post. It's been a brilliant start, actually.
Fantastic. What was it like during COVID? Was you operating during COVID as well?
Well, actually, we're a COVID business. I started very small with the business, and then we came out of the back of COVID with people wanting more connection to the flowers that they were buying and people having more time at home. I think that it created this love of a local product. And so our business grew from COVID, actually.
Brilliant. Do you know what, Amelia? Let's start from the beginning. Talk to us a bit about your background and how you got into the farming, flowering industry.
Yes. So my husband and I work together in the business now, but it started, I was a teacher and I had 3 children. I stayed at home with them while they were little. And I had this love of gardening. So I've always gardened. And it was something that I did just partly to escape the children, take them all outside and work out with them. But also it just grounds me. It gives me space in my head to think. And I was growing all these flowers and just comments from people who said, these are lovely. I've never seen these before. Why have I never seen this before? Can we buy them? So the business started very small with me just doing that from my driveway, from the gate. And then it grew. It grew on that. And then my husband was in construction. And he had to stop due to COVID. And I think he then saw that actually with the both of us working on what we were doing, with the both of us putting in all the hours that we could build the business and people actually this was something people wanted. And he said, let's go for it. So, first generation farmers, no experience of growing on a commercial scale. And we just went for it.
That's brilliant. Very inspiring as well, to be honest with you.
Well, it's definitely a roller coaster ride. It's not always plain sailing, but you've just got to go for it, haven't you? You've got to give these things a go. And with the kids in tow, we kind of pay them pocket money to pick flowers. And it's different every season, but it's our 3rd year on a 2-acre site.
Oh, congratulations. 2 acres. That must be brilliant.
It is. You can grow an awful lot of flowers on 2 acres because you can grow them very closely together. It's a big juggling game, but it's full time. But it's a brilliant career for anyone who wants to have a go. It's hard work, but very rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can do your own hours as well, and kind of work yourselves around the flower farming. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. And that was the idea, that we wanted to work from home. And my husband was saying, I'm spending so many hours away from the children. Actually, I feel like I'm missing out on them growing up. And this is something we can do as a family. And it's true. It's Easter holidays right now. The children will come to the farm with me every single day. They're outside. I mean, it's not always plain sailing. Like I say, they're getting old enough to pay them now. So...
But that's like with anything, isn't it? There's always, it's never plain sailing with anything,
It's not. And I think the best thing about this type of business is every year you start anew and you think, oh, well, that crop's been rubbish this year. It's okay because we'll do it again next year. And I think that's something that's really lovely about this business, is that idea of renewal and being able to go again.
That's brilliant. What is flower farming and what exactly does the job entail?
So flower farming, and if you'd said to me 5 years ago that you were a flower farmer, I wouldn't have had a clue about what you were talking about. I didn't even realize this was a thing. It's a job that entails lots of different tasks at different times of the year. So it's completely seasonal. And at any one time in the year, I'll be doing completely different tasks. But what we do is we grow everything ourselves. So we're sowing seeds. We are then planting those seeds out in the field. We're harvesting those flowers when they're ready. We then also do the other side of it. So we also arrange them into bouquets and we send them in the post. So we are doing the whole thing from seed to bloom all the way to the person receiving it. Every single part of that is done by ourselves. So it's a full-time lots of different skill sets along the way.
Have you had much feedback from any of your customers at all?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think people love the fact that we try to grow things they haven't seen before. So if it's tulips, like at the moment, we've been harvesting about 5,000 tulips. If we grow a
5,000?
tulip, yeah, sounds like a lot, doesn't it? But it's not really. The ones you see in the supermarket, we grow the complete opposite. So we grow big, double, crazy colours, crazy shapes, tulips, things. We try and grow unusual flowers. So people always remark, "Oh, I've never seen that before," and that's what keeps us going. That's what's exciting about the business. We're small enough so we can pivot and make decisions for the next year.
Have you tried growing tropical plants at all? I know it may be a bit more challenging, but is it possible?
It's possible for sure, because we are very aware of our carbon footprint as business. So we don't grow anything that needs any heat. We do have some polytunnels, but they're not heated. So we grow with the seasons. So if what we see as seasonal is literally if you look out of the window right now and the flowers that you see, that's what we're growing. So we're not trying to grow anything out of the season or anything too crazy that's going to require an awful lot of input. So, for example, something tropical might require a lot of heat, and that's going to up the carbon footprint of our flowers.
Yeah, because there's certain conditions, isn't it, that you have to grow those particular plants in. Do you have greenhouses on your plots of land, or is it all mainly outside grown?
Yeah, we do. Well, most of our crops are grown in the field, so they're outside. But we have 6 polytunnels. And what that does is that allows just that extra bit of protection from the weather. So you kind of see your polytunnels as your best real estate. So our most expensive flowers, or the ones that we want to be absolutely perfect, they're the ones that go in the polytunnel. It's like a little protected microclimate. But that requires its own set of rules, as it were. For example, the rain's doing the watering for me right now, but it's not watering inside the polytunnels. So it's a different way of growing. So it took a little while to get used to that, but definitely worth it for the product that you get at the end.
Did you have to, or maybe at the moment you are, but did you have to learn anything about plants or do any educational courses, or was it all self-learning? Or
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I've always had a love of it. So I think that helps, because if you love something, you want to do, you read. I was reading about it anyway. And I'm a real geek with my reading and research. I absolutely love to look up new varieties. I'm always following other people that do the same thing. I did several courses. So there's a very well-known flower farmer in the States called Florette. I did her online course. And I think the thing is with this is you are constantly reinventing the rules. So something changes all the time, and climate change is a massive part of that. A lot of flower farmers, and we're a great network of people, are worried about drought right now. So you're constantly changing what you think you know. What should be blooming at that time isn't blooming now. It's blooming 4 weeks earlier. And why is that? Well, is that because the temperatures are rising? And because you're having to adapt and change with all of that, it's one of those things where, yeah, absolutely, you can read all the books under the sun, but actually you have to do it. And where we are in Devon, we're really lucky. We get a slightly warmer.
Oh, Devon, is that where you are? I am so jealous now. 2 acres of land in Devon, you're living the dream.
Sounds a different.
I'm in London, isn't it? And don't get me wrong, London is a gorgeous place, but it's not Devon, is it?
They're different for sure.
You just sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, not at all. It's got, yeah, you're right. It sounds like the absolute ideal life. And I wish it was wafting through fields of flowers.
That's what I imagined when I think about Devon, like the dreamland, like the place everybody's trying to get to in life, you know?
Absolutely. That's the image that everybody thinks. But yeah, it's slightly different to that. But it is its own microclimate. We're in South Devon. We're quite protected. We're lucky in that our crops are, weeks earlier than other people's crops further north. So, yeah, it is. It's just about knowing your piece of land, knowing your soil, knowing your product. Yeah.
Because I've noticed during the years that you'll get like a period of time where it's raining and then there's nothing. There's no rain. And I've noticed it's getting worse, to be honest with you. I mean, how do you deal with that? Do you have to water it yourself, or is there? In other countries I've seen also like hoses laid out, or like some kind of system they've got that waters the plants.
Yeah, absolutely. So last year, I think we had 11 weeks with no rain, which was hardcore. I mean, we lost plants, we lost flowers. We do a pick your own where people can come in and pick their own flowers, and we had to close the gates because we just didn't have enough flowers. Yeah, so we have irrigation, which is what you're talking about with those long hoses
That's
laid down.
right, irrigation. I remember from geography.
That's it. Yeah, it's brilliant. But every time we turn the irrigation on, it's costing us money because that water is coming from mains and we pay money for that. So what we're doing this year is we have invested in a really big barn on our land. And what we're hoping to do, what we are going to do, is to run a guttering around the outside of that barn. And we're going to harvest as much rainwater as we can into some huge tanks. And then hopefully collect that rainwater and use that rainwater to then irrigate any crops that we need to outside. But the other part of that question that is really, really important is if you look after your soil and you constantly add to your soil every year, we put a big layer of compost on our soil every single year. What you're doing is you're allowing that soil to become more water retentive. And the idea is that the plants can adapt to the conditions that they're in. And if your soil's in really good health, then you shouldn't have to water too much.
Right, okay. Is there anything else that you need to do to soil to kind of keep it at that condition, that level where you get optimum out of it in terms of growing plants?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it helps if you start with good conditions to start with. So where we are in Devon is a really well-known veg and flower growing area anyway. So the soil's really, really good. But also we operate what's called a no-dig system. So we try not to disturb our soil at all. So we don't really ever have to dig it over. So we add a layer of compost, like I say, every year. And if we are taking plants out and putting new plants in, we're just really careful about how we treat our soil. We don't use any pesticides, any herbicides, nothing, no chemicals on our land at all, because the soil is a living thing in itself. It's got a whole network of connections going on under there. So good soil, if you have good soil, which is the most important thing to us, then you have great flowers.
Brilliant.
That's our kind of our mantra, is what we go by.
That's brilliant. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. It's interesting. There's a lot of research going on at the moment about agriculture and what you can do to improve the life of your soil and also the whole ecosystem around that. But we like I say, we're a bit geeky with all that.
No, I think that's brilliant because that way you keep up to date with what's going on and any future methods as well. Because things are always changing, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. And I think the beauty of our business, because it's such a small piece of land, it's only 2 acres. It's not acres and acres of, I'm not farming huge amount of land here. We can really adapt and try on new things and try and keep up with what's going to be best for not only our business, but also for the wildlife that is literally coming in every day in our land. What can we do to support that?
Fantastic. We're just going to a quick ad break and we'll be right back.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good. UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
So, Amelia, basically, insects, do they play a part in insects are a good thing, don't get me wrong, obviously, I'm sure they help in a lot of ways, but also can insects cause issues in terms of like eating the plants or anything like that?
Yeah, they do. We get the good insects and we get the so-called bad insects in as well that aren't particularly helpful. For example, aphids are particularly annoying. And there's a few ways of dealing with it. I mean, you can always blast them off with some chemicals, which you can do. But the problem with that, which is why we've never done that, is because once you want to kill that one insect, you're also killing the beneficial ones as well. So that was always a no-no for us. Do you know what? Really, we deal with it by either upon harvest, we can, you can always use a jet of water to get any insects off that you can see. You get a little bit of damage, possibly, the slugs will eat a few, but we're growing on a scale where if a slug eats 5, I've still got possibly another 350 stems that I'm still harvesting. So it's never a huge issue for us. We've never had a crop decimated by any sort of insect. And actually what we're finding, because this is our third year, is year on year, more and more beneficial insects are realizing, oh, there might be a meal there next year because there were aphids there last year. So we get more ladybirds and we get more hoverflies, or we get more sparrows that come in. And that biodiversity is just writing itself. I think we definitely have found that if you give it chance, nature tends to find its own balance, and you don't tend to get these huge swings of massive infestations of something. So that's kind of how we manage it, really.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of flowers. Do you think they improve mental well-being?
Oh, huge. And my husband always says, when he was working in construction, nobody ever thanked him for any job that he did. It was a hugely stressful career, of which invariably costs his customers more money than what they wanted to spend, because that's the nature of construction. And he says the thing is with flowers, every time I hand somebody a bouquet, or I talk to somebody about what we do, or they come and look at what we're doing at an event, he said they're happy. People are happy. They have an emotional response to flowers. They remind people of, oh, my grandma used to grow that, or, oh, I had these at my wedding, or, even with bereavements and with farewell flowers, it gives people something to focus on. And especially if you're using something that either was in that person's garden, or they love the smell of something, the scent brings back a memory. Flowers are hugely emotional. And actually, it's not something I'd even realized when we started the business, how much that was going to influence what we did. It's brilliant. And I have customers who come back time and time again because they want a certain thing at a certain time of year. Oh, I had your peonies last year. I really can't wait until they're blooming again this year. And you get that lovely personal relationship, which is great.
I totally agree with you. I think it shows a sign of respect and thankfulness, if that makes sense. Just saying thank you, or just being respectful. I remember a few years ago now, I spoke to a lady years ago, I think either during or just after COVID. And I think she started around actually the COVID time as well. And just as a thank you for coming on the show, she sent me a flower. Don't worry, this is not me trying to get flowers out of you now. Okay, Amelia, don't worry. I'll give you my address afterwards, though. Yeah, you can send me something if you want to. But basically, she said I was always a failure with flowers. I'll be honest with you. I was so. I try thinking, I've got to make sure I water the flower. I've got to make sure I water the flower. But then I'd forget. I'd slip up, then the flower would die. She sent me a spider plant.
Oh, yeah.
And to this day, you know what? It's so weird, because I'm always like, you know what? I've got to thank her for sending me this plant, because it's the only plant I've ever had, which is lived. Right? Because they don't take too much maintenance,
no,
right? In terms of, you can just water them, you can forget about them and water them, and they'll still be alive,
They'll be fine.
Absolutely. And it's a fantastic plant. And I was so grateful that firstly, I was really grateful that she sent it to me, and because it's still alive, I always think, I'm going to say thank you to her again, for sending me the plant, and let her know that the plant is still alive.
Impressive, well done.
Thank you very much. It's a big thing for me, because I'm not a plant person. I'll be honest with you, I'm not a garden person. But basically, my mum, she comes round. And she likes to do the gardening stuff. She likes to do gardening stuff. So, and I don't do anything with my garden. I'm just useless like that, to be honest with you. I'm more about inside the house. So basically, she'll come around and and she loves it. The emotions she gets. She came down yesterday and she's like, right, let me look at the grass. Oh yeah, the grass will need cutting. And I say to her and my dad, I say, do you know what? Don't worry about it. I always say to them, I'll get someone to deal with it. Don't worry, They're like, no, we want to do it. I can't stop them. I don't know what it is about flowers and gardening, but there's something definitely there.
Oh, there is. I think it's you're outside, which just always makes us feel better, I think, as humans, just that outside connection. And B, it's something living and you can make a difference. And I think that gardening in the past has been seen as a job. And actually, if you can see it as not a job, that's actually going to be my leisure time. And it can be whatever you want it to be. And there's so many options out there for plants and things that you can grow in small spaces, in large spaces. I think that's what always gets me, is there's always something new. There's always something different I haven't tried, or that plant has done really well here. Oh, I'll maybe grow some more of those. Or maybe that one, that one smells amazing. I must remember to take some cuttings of that. And I think the more and more you learn about it, and even if it's just something really, really small that you grow in a pot, and then you think, oh, that's done really well, and you learn how to take a cutting from it. Not only do you get plants for free, but you also get that sense of fulfillment. And it teaches you. I think it's one of the last things left where it's not instant. You've got to learn patience, and that's brilliant, because in this world where we want everything instantly all the time, we can order it and it arrives the next day. You can't do that with plants. You can't do that with gardening. It slows everything right down. I think it's good for us.
The new society we live in, which has been around for a little while now, to be fair, is I want everything right now.
Yeah, definitely.
I want the plant to grow right now.
Yeah.
that kind of situation.
Well, my kids sow seeds, and they're checking it the next day, and they're wanting to dig it up and go, hang on a minute. And I'm like, don't leave it. I said, it will appear. And when it does appear, it's like magic. It is. It's that it never fails to get me. Something pushes up and you go, can't believe that happened. Can't believe that, that tiny little seed grew into that little seedling, and then you care for it. It's amazing.
Do you know what you should do? You should tell your kids, on YouTube, you get people that have grown plants, and they've kept a camera on it over months, and they've speeded it up to show what happens over time. You show that to the kids and say, look, if you're patient, this is what basically happens.
Yeah, I should. I should try and do that, actually, shouldn't I, on the farm?
Honestly, try it out. With YouTube, you've got these algorithms and you get all kinds of random stuff coming. Something came on my YouTube and I was thinking, oh, what's this? And I watched it. I thought, gosh, in like a few months, is that what happens? Do you know what I mean? It's quite interesting,
Oh, yeah, God, it is. It's amazing, really. I can look at the field in winter and think, this feels quite bleak and there's nothing here. And then 5 months later, it is alive with life.
A miracle.
It is actually.
I really do see it like that. You're 100% right, I remember during COVID, the plants, I could smell them more. I don't know if you found the same thing. Mind you, in Devon, everything's perfect, isn't it? Anyway, Amelia, basically, no, but down here in London, honestly, because the planes, planes weren't flying as much, and I remember distinctly smelling more of the flowers and the trees as well, and I could hear more animals as well, and that kind of thing,
Yeah, absolutely. I think loads of people said that, didn't they? Like nature crept back in. I think we had more time, which definitely helped. But yeah, definitely less pollution. Like you say, it makes you take notice of things, doesn't it?
It was amazing. I thought it was amazing. And you're right. Definitely. I think, look, I'm your normal geezer, right? But when I go into a nice environment, I see some flowers and you smell the air. It's nice. It's really nice. Do you know what I mean? It's refreshing,
It is, yeah. Not enough people kind of rave about it, but it's true. It does. It's so grounding. It's a brilliant. I love it.
I think people need to appreciate it more. Do you get people that visit you just to have a look at the land and the plants or anything like that?
Yeah, we do, absolutely. So people come and visit us. They can come and pick their own flowers in the summer. So when we have enough going and blooming, then people love to come and do that. And I also run some workshops from the field as well. So people can come and learn how we do bouquets. A couple of new ones this year that we're currently planning are things like how to grow flowers from seed. Just really starting back at the basics and actually just giving people a chance to come and put their hands in the soil and have a go. Because it's we get a really wide variety of people. Some people want a career change, so they're thinking about doing something similar. Some people just want to come and play with flowers. I get it, they want to just come and have those couple of hours in the field. So we love people coming to visit us, and we get a wide variety of people coming.
You know what you could do? You could do like a little tea, coffee, cake afternoon. And you could sell that as well. That's something else. Because they kind of go hand in hand, don't they, in a way?
I'm talking to my husband.
Is this some ideas he's had as well?
He'd love to do that. He'd love to do that. Yeah, he's all for the whole shebang. He wants to, teas, coffees, cakes.
Yeah, no, honestly, I think trust us guys, right? Yeah, to come out about cake and tea and coffee and everything.
Absolutely. No, we do. I'm actually. It's what we've built. We've built a barn on our land, which is actually more of a creative space for other creative businesses. We're hoping to invite in so people to come and do yoga amongst the flowers, people to come and do painting. So just trying to create a little bit more of a flower hub here in Devon. But it's a small start at the moment because we're still finishing the building. But it's something definitely for the future.
That's a brilliant idea. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, and just allowing more people to come and be part of this because it's a really peaceful, beautiful place to be. Not so much today. I don't know what it's like in London, but it's absolutely.
Oh gosh, it's been raining.
It's horrible
Been,
here.
been a bit windy. Oh, it's been the same. That makes me feel so much better, Amelia. I'll be honest with you. The thing is, even if it's like that in Devon, it's still beautiful, isn't it? Really.
Well, I don't know. It's pretty grey.
But basically, I know summer's probably busy. Is there any other parts of the year where it's busy as well?
Well, yes, actually. In fact, the whole year is busy because it's different jobs at different times. So the British flower season is March to November. So from March to November, we are planting, harvesting, staking, arranging all year round. It's not one big mass plant out of seeds. We continually sow seeds pretty much right up until the end, because next year's flowers will be sown in August and September. So you're constantly thinking 6 months ahead. So the season is actually the whole year, because even December, January, February, that is my time to update my website, contact all my customers, send out my newsletter, all those things that I'm trying to do as the year goes on as well. But you get a little bit more desk-based stuff in the winter. But it's a full-time job. We don't leave the field to it. There's still always jobs, whether it's pruning roses in the winter. So yeah, it goes all year round, and you don't really stop any one of those jobs all that time. Yeah, it's full on. It's a full time. It's definitely full on. It's hard work. It's a lot of physical hard work. But yeah, very rewarding. You get good muscles.
But you know what? To be fair, it's good exercise as well, isn't it? Getting out and about, and you're walking.
Oh yeah. It is. Yeah, and even I joke with my florists that come in and buy our flowers, because we sell wholesale as well. And being a florist is no joke. Lugging buckets of water with flowers in and out of the cooler all day long. It's hard. It's hard graft. It's hard physical work. Yeah, but good for you. Yeah, you're always on your feet, and it's not a dull job.
I think with florists as well, you get all those orders that come in, and then you've got to, because people do bouquets and put the packages together, and you've got to do it delicately. You can't. There's so much speed you can put into it. Do you see what I mean? There's a lot. Yeah. There's more involved, I think, than people actually.
It's a whole new skill set. And yeah, the florists, I sell a lot of my flowers to event florists. So people who are doing quite large weddings on the weekends. What we do is we offer our flowers via post. So we will make bouquets in-house, and we will send them out in the post. And we make a simple hand-tied bouquet. But yeah, it's a whole other skill set job, the floristry.
No, absolutely. We're just going to another quick ad break, and we'll be right back.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good. UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
So, Amelia, what are the huge short and long-term benefits to working outdoors with plants, do you think?
So I think long-term, the benefit for us that we've definitely seen is that you plant something and it's not instantaneous. We grow a lot of flowers from seed, but we also grow an awful lot of foliage. So for every bouquet that we make, it doesn't just need flowers, it also needs something green to go with it, and that's your foliage. And some of these foliage plants can take upwards of 5 years before you're actually harvesting from them. So they're going in the ground small, and you've got to be patient. And every year you're looking at that and you're waiting and you're judging it. And I think the long-term benefit of that is that whole relationship that you have with that plant and with that product that you're constantly relating back to. So I think in terms of long-term, it's having the sense of thinking, I've invested in this and I know that that's going to be worth it in the long term. And you have this really kind of easy to see benefit at the end of it. And it's not just the cutting of it and using it, it's the whole shebang that you've done with growing it, nurturing it, waiting for it. So for me, that kind of long-term benefit is always having that patience and having that relationship. In the short term, though, in the short term, you get to be outside. You get to be up and close and personal with nature. You get to have your hands in the soil. It's a tactile job. You're constantly, your hands are your tools. You are using them in every single part of what you're doing, whether you're planting, whether you're harvesting, whether you're protecting something from the rain, whether pulling things down, and when you're making up flowers, because we don't use any chemicals at all on our flowers. I know those flowers so well because I've grown them from seed. But the other part of what we try to do is try and get scent into our flowers, because commercially grown flowers have had the scent, for the main part, bred out of them, because of the most important thing for a commercially grown flower that is imported is that it has a good vase life. So scent gets pushed off the end of that because it's not as important. So for us, scent is a massive part of what we do, because actually it's what evokes emotions in people. So whether that's using herbs in our bouquets, so we'll be cutting lots of apple mint, for example, this week for our bouquets. It just gives people that extra sensory appeal to our flowers. So the short-term benefits are just getting to work with something really beautiful and really sensory.
Which is brilliant. Working with flowers is a big emotional responsibility, as you work closely with customers for both weddings and farewell flowers. I'm guessing farewell flowers basically like for funerals, basically.
Yeah.
And, what's it like, in terms of navigating through these relationships? Because it's very sensitive, isn't it? Very sensitive situations occurring, and, what's that like?
Yeah, it's not something I hadn't thought about in the beginning when I thought about the business. I didn't realize I was going to get to have these, almost quite emotional relationships with people throughout, whether it's with a bride and guiding her through her choices for her wedding flowers and talking about the colours that she could have and what we grow and how we grow it. So for example, with weddings, we offer very much a kind of DIY option. So it's for brides who they don't mind, they don't want a specific flower, but they want locally grown, and they're making a sustainable eco choice by choosing our business. So we never offer them a specific flower, but we say we will possibly have these types of flowers available for your wedding. So it's guiding people through that process and educating them along the way about why we work the way we do, and why hopefully it will result in a really beautiful, much, in my opinion, better option for their wedding. So that's the weddings is a different emotional excitement client. But the farewell flowers that we do, so for funerals, that really surprised me in the level of, the only way I can think is relationship that you have with those clients, because quite often it's somebody local who comes to find us because they've heard of us, and they like the idea. Possibly lots of people come to us because we offer an eco alternative, and what that means is that our flowers aren't imported, but it also means that we don't use any floral foam, any oasis, that green stuff that's like squidgy that you put water in. Yeah. So that's the single-use plastic. So we try not to use any single-use plastics in our business at all. It breaks down into a microplastic. So we use alternative things for our funeral work. And if it's somebody local, we'll say, come to the farm. Come and choose the flowers that you want me to use, and that's been such actually it's quite a humbling experience. You get to talk to people, you get to talk about the person that they're remembering, you get to hear about that person, and then when I'm making those flowers, I'm thinking about that person. It's a really hands-on, it's actually a really great way. To me, it's the way it should be, because a funeral is all about celebrating that life, and surely the flowers should celebrate that person. If that person was a local person and I'm using local flowers, surely that's got to be the most kind of rewarding way to celebrate them. So that's been a really lovely part of the business that was unexpected. That
means you must be, I'd say, more popular now in Devon than before, obviously, but more people must know about yourselves and your business and everything like that now. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it takes time, doesn't it, to get your name out there. For a small business, I think it's constantly plugging what you do via social media channels, but also we do a lot of local events. So we'll do garden shows and county shows. We just talk, tell people what we do. And often we'll take along our flowers so they can see for themselves. And they can, nearly always someone will say, oh, sweet peas, my granny grew sweet peas. It's always those types of conversations. And it's always word of mouth. So if somebody likes our flowers and they're happy with them, that hopefully, well, they keep returning. I see repeat customers, they pop up on the screen. And I think when you order from a small business, it's great because the person who grew the flowers, the person who cut the flowers, the person who sees the email come in, and the person who sends them in the post and goes to the post office with them is all the same person. And I think that personal relationship you don't get from a big multinational company, do you? But from a small business, you do. So if there's ever any problem or something's been delayed, they can email me, "Hey, Amelia, do you know?" And I'll email them straight back. And that's one of the beauties of small business, is that you can be in charge of all those parts, and your quality control is, as good as it can be, isn't it?
That's fantastic. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you can add that personal touch as well, can't you?
Yeah.
And you'll remember people and what's going on. And do you know what I mean? I think it comes all in hand in providing that quality service, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, it does. I think people will come back and they'll say, "Oh, your Mother's Day flowers for my mum last year, she loved. I'm ordering again this year." And there's no better compliment, really.
If you guys need flowers for any occasions, at least there's no problems there. What impact do locally grown flowers have on the environment compared to imported flowers?
So 90% of all the flowers sold in the UK are imported. And I don't know the percentage of those that are grown in Kenya and Colombia, but it's a lot of them. So that's either a longboat from Kenya with flowers that are kept very, very cold to get here, or they're flown, which is more often the case. So that's a huge carbon footprint on those flowers. And not only that, in some of those countries, the use of the chemicals that they possibly use, for example, for bug control or to make the flowers grow better, bigger, stronger, is not as regulated as it is here in the UK. So imported flowers have got a slightly dubious history that we don't necessarily know about, because we just see them in the supermarket and they look beautiful and we buy them. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying that I'm not sure people know the facts about imported flowers, because it's not the same as what we know about our food and how our food is grown. It's a slightly different thing, because we're not putting it in our mouths, are we? So I think people have a different way of thinking about flowers in that way. So if you're buying locally grown flowers, and there is always the option to order from your local flower farmer. And actually, I'm part of an organisation called Flowers from the Farm. And that's a website where you can log on and you can find your local flower farmer local to you. So that's another brilliant way that my customers find me if they want to send flowers within Devon. They will find us through that website. But also, that those flowers have been grown on a small scale, nearly always without chemicals. And they haven't been flown around the world. They haven't travelled as far to get to you. They're probably cut the day before, so they're going to hopefully last longer for you. And 9 times out of 10, you get a completely different product, actually. You're not got the bog standard array of colours and flowers that you may see in the supermarket that you see all year round. You're going to get something completely different and, in my opinion, more beautiful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no. I think definitely that would be the case, Do you think flowers in the house, do you think it improves oxygen?
I think it improves mental well-being. I think having something beautiful in the house just gives you that little bit of grounding and a little bit of something else that, if they're just on the table and you're looking at them and you look after them, you change their water and you're making sure they last as long as possible for you, and possibly their fragrance, how can that not add something of value to that room? It's a mood lifter for sure.
No, I can see that point. I think it's having some of nature inside, because to be fair, in our DNA, we're people generally were outside originally.
Yeah, definitely.
Millions of thousands, whatever it is, years ago. So having a bit of nature inside, I think, 100% I agree with you, is going to be good for your mental well-being.
Oh, it is. It's bringing outdoors in. And that just gives you, and I think the other thing about buying locally grown flowers is you're buying a flower or a foliage or something that is in season right now. So imported flowers, you can probably get most flowers all year round because of the way the flowers are grown. But with locally grown flowers, you're only going to get peonies in May and June. It makes them extra special, because you're only getting them then. And then you have to wait another whole year until you see them again. And I think if you can get something all the time, all year round, that thing stops being special, doesn't it? It can be throwaway. Whereas, you know, my customers, they get so excited. As soon as I put peonies up on my website, you know, they're sold out, they're gone, because people know they're only around for 5 to 6 weeks and then that's it.
The term seasonal comes into mind here. Because what does it really mean? Do you know what I mean? Because it's been kind of been greenwashed as well. I mean, seasonal can mean all sorts of different flowers, isn't it? It could be all year. I mean, the term seasonal when it comes to flowers, talk to us about that.
Yeah, well, the term seasonal doesn't actually have any regulations attached to it. So you can use the term seasonal and it can be any season. And I'm sure that if you think about us as a global as a global world, if you think about what is grown around the world, well, pretty much probably every single flower is in season somewhere in the world at some point. So that's how I think the term seasonal can get kind of bandied around and not used as it's meant to be, which is, in my opinion, the word seasonal means what's blooming outside my window right now. If it's daffodils, then that's what I should be seeing, isn't it? Daffodils. There's no roses blooming outside right now, but I'll go into the supermarket and I'll see a bunch of flowers that's been arranged. It's got roses in it and it'll say seasonal mix. Well, I don't know what season they're in, but it's definitely not the British kind of growing season. So seasonal, it doesn't have any regulations at all. So for us, seasonal means we're cutting it this week. It's in bloom right now and it's available for you to buy. So that we don't push any of our flowers with heat, so that we can produce what we can produce within the seasons that we're given. And we're lucky here in the UK because we've got such a lovely array of seasons that we can grow so much.
100%. And it's also got warmer, hasn't it, the UK? It's not as cold as it used to be. So it means flowers or certain types of flowers can grow maybe better or easier now than before. Yeah,
definitely. I think because we're fairly newbies, so we're only our third year in, so we're learning as we go now. But I mean, this was a cold winter.
You're right. It was
no surprise. Lots of flower farmers lost a few crops this year because we've been used to slightly warmer winters. But the drought in the summer was not good for lots of us, and then it takes you full circle again, saying, right, I've got to look after my soil, I've got to grow things that are good for our climate. But definitely the warmer climate is meaning that different crops are possible to grow now year round.
100%. If people want to find out a bit more about what you do and what services you provide in terms of flowers, because you post flowers out as well, don't you?
We do, yes. So part of our business is that we send next day delivery Monday to Friday, bouquets. And we also do a really popular option on our website is a flower bundle. So that is a bundle of flowers that's ready for people to arrange themselves. So we do a few different bouquet options and some bundles. And you can find all that on our website. We keep our social media channels updated daily on Instagram mainly and Facebook. And people quite often follow along with there and comment on what we're growing. And I try to show what we're growing and I show the field and I show our floristry. So you get an all round view of what we do. Other than that, I think websites, and we do wholesale. So we sell to a lot of florists as well.
What's your website and how can people find you on social media if they want to link in?
So it's www.ameliasflowerfarm.co.uk. And my Instagram is at Amelia's Flower Farm, all one word.
Brilliant. Have you got anything you want to say to our listeners? What's coming up next for yourselves in terms of the next few months and what popular flowers you're going to have and that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So the big excitement at the moment for us is we're building this big flower barn, which is hopefully just going to able us to have lots of new workshops, lots of people visiting. There's a little bit of shelter from the wind and the rain if it's not a particularly great weather day when they come to visit. So we're hoping to have lots more visitors for the Flower Farm for sure. And actually, I mentioned peonies, but they are our next big crop after the tulips. So we're currently harvesting thousands of tulips at the moment. But peony season is around the corner, and I know that always gets people particularly excited.
Amelia, you've been great. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. It's been absolutely brilliant. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. And thank you to our listeners. You can find me at GavinJ417. Until next time, take care.